Gang, for the last few months, I've been using True Hemp Science CBD products, and I love them. True Hemp Science promises you premium quality, pure ingredients, and true value. They source the highest grade organic hemp from around the world to handcraft the finest full spectrum CBD products. And they offer a complete line of CBD products, including full spectrum CBD oils and tinctures, CBD skincare lotions and sports rubs, CBD gummies, and gluten-free chocolates. They number their CBD products to differentiate them by strain, by farm, and extraction method. Now, gang, you know, in the last few episodes, I've talked about the different products. I talked about the number 81, which is great for relaxation and sleep, and I swear by that one. The number G41, which is absolutely fantastic for focus and giving you focus and all that stuff without stressing you out and giving you anxiety. Today, I'll be talking about the number 19, which is complete restoration. Now, this is great for day use. Yeah. The potential benefits include increased focus, increased serotonin levels, making you happier, and anti-inflammatory properties. Number 19 is a biodynamic organic CBD crafted with CBDA, almost an entirely raw product with all of the acid compounds being intact. Made with organic MCT coconut oil as a base and added terpenes for flavor and effectiveness. Now, I love this stuff. I've been taking it for the last few days, and I do feel its effect. This is how I've been doing it. I've been taking this stuff, and then I don't take the stuff for a couple days, and then I take it again and see how it's actually affecting me. And I notice that this one does sort of like lift my mood a bit. It gives me a little bit more focus, and I love being able to focus like this without high levels of caffeine making me nervous and anxious. So True Hemp Science number 19 is great for day use in that way. Now, gang, How Did I Get Here has partnered with True Hemp Science for something very special. That's right. Purchase $65 or more worth of regular price products. Use the code HDIGH and receive a 296 milliliter bottle of number 81, which is great for rest, relaxation, and sleep. Gang, True Hemp Science is great. Go to truehempscience.com for all of your True Hemp Science needs. Use the code HDIGH for your special free number 81, 296 milligrams. That's nothing to sneeze at, baby. Get yourself a good night rest. Go there and check out all their stuff. And if you live in Austin, you can find them there on by the Soup Peddler on the corner of South 1st Street and Mary. But go to truehempscience.com, look through their products. I'm sure there's something there for you that'll help you. Whenever you buy something from them, it helps us out. All right? truehempscience.com. Get yourself some CBD. Let's get down. Hey, gang, it's Johnny. I just want to take a second to talk to you guys about engagement. Right now, you're listening to the show, and I'm not sure exactly what platform you're listening to it on. But whatever platform you're listening to it on, you can subscribe to it and get an alert every time a new show drops, usually every Tuesday and every Friday. New shows every Tuesday and every Friday. Whatever platform you're listening on, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Overcast, Stitcher, any platform, you can subscribe to it. And if you can leave a comment, leave a star, share it on your social media if it's something that you like, please do that. We encourage you to do that. And also, as far as social media goes, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I am at Johnny Gowdy on Instagram and Twitter. Give us a follow. You get to see photos even of my dog, of guests on the show, of different shows I play. Whatever it is that I'm talking about that I've been doing on the show, you'll be able to catch up on through Instagram and Twitter. Also, you can like our Facebook page, How Did I Get Here? Please do. You'll see photos of me with guests that have been on the show. Anyway, all I want to say is, you like a show, share it, use the hashtag How Did I Get Here Pod. We'll give you a shout out. Thank you so much for listening to the show, and engage. Let's get down.
And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
It's time for How Did I Get Here? And now here is your host,
All right. Hello, I'm Johnny. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. I hope you guys have all had a good week and that you're gearing up for your weekend, whatever it is you're going to do this weekend. Get out and see some music and stuff. You know, I was interviewed last night for this event coming up next Friday called Lush Life at Pershing, which I'll be hosting. It's Friday, February 25th. I'll talk about it on the shows next week and put a link to it in the podcast and stuff. But I was talking to this guy, Zach Scott. He was interviewing me, and he was asking me what had changed in the Austin music scene. And what I figured out, basically over the last like 30 years from what I've seen, is that Austin was smaller. And there used to be like a reverence paid. It wasn't so much about the musicians as much as it was about the fans. So there used to be this reverence paid to the musicians. And like I was telling him in my band, Mr. Rocket Baby, like our song got added to the radio, a big, like KLBJ, the big rock radio station, which wasn't just classic rock then. They were adding new active rock, in like 1993 or whatever. And like we got added like the same week as Aerosmith to their playlist, like an actual ad. So there were fans of, and people loved that. Like people were fans of that band, and people followed that band, and people came to see us every Thursday, and people go and do that stuff, like the Bob Schneider famous Monday night thing at Saxon Pub, all those kind of things. In the 90s, there was Tuesdays at Continental Club with 8.5 Souvenirs. I just talked to Olivier about that. So what makes that happen is some kind of demand and like fans that will be there every week. And that's what really has changed, is that since people have moved in from somewhere else, and somebody, say they move here from San Francisco like 4 years ago, at this point, they don't have the reverence for the music scene that someone that was living here back then, because it's a bigger city. There's more interest. There's other things to do. Yes, there is this music component, but to you, it might just be that stage at the airport when you fly in. Oh yeah, they have a band guy there, and but there were like real fans before, and they used to follow bands, and they would cheer you on, and they would back you up. And that's what's changed. There are still fans like that around. There are. I will pick one out, and she's popular with my group of friends, my singer-songwriter friends. That's mostly where her times goes, but she goes to shows almost every day. Her name is Joanna Castillo, and she goes and sees bands almost every day. She has a job. She goes to work, but she goes out at night and sees bands. She plots what she's going to go see. She gets excited about it. She films it. She shares it. She lets people know she was there. She tries to get as many people interested in the music that she's interested in, which is what real fans do. She's a real fan. In fact, during the lockdown in 2020, she ordered merch from bands, and like every single day. I believe that's what she did, just to support the music. And she was out there watching people's live streams, supporting them. Then as soon as things open back up, she's back at the show. So what's really cool is that a group of Austin musicians led by Don and Hawks. I got a text from Chris Hawks, and he said, hey, you want to play this Joanna Fest? Joanna Fest. There's a celebration for Joanna. Yeah, and a bunch of people are playing. It's taking place this Sunday, February 20th from 3 to 6 p.m. Here in Austin at Luster Pearl South. Joanna Fest, featuring tons of musicians. Everyone's going to play like 2 or 3 songs. It's going to be the Bell Sounds, Kelly McWee, Natalie Price, Susanna Schoffel, Don and Hawks, Betty Sue. I will get to play a few songs. I'm so excited to get to give back to Joanna and get to entertain for her. She's a lovely person. There's a great chance to get out there. It also is a benefit for HAM. So all proceeds go to HAM, the Health Alliance for Austin Musicians. Come out to Joanna Fest this Sunday, February 20th from 3 to 6 p.m. and enjoy some music from some of your favorite music people. As I said, so many great people. All these people that have been on the show. Tons of people that have been on the show. Great singer-songwriters. And if you don't like someone, they're only playing a couple songs, and someone else will be up that you like better. Right? Anyway, it's great to get out there and celebrate a fan after getting celebrated by fans for so long. So I want to thank Joanna Castillo for being such a wonderful person and supporter of the music scene. And I want to thank Don and Hawks for putting this together and setting this up. Joanna Fest this Sunday, February 20th, 3 to 6 p.m. at Luster Pearl South. Gang, I have a great show for you today. Speaking of old Austin, Nakia. You know Nakia. He's a musician here in Austin. He was on The Voice almost 11 years ago. His performance on The Voice was what inspired me to name this show How Did I Get Here? Watching him on The Voice before I started the show. That's how I got the name. So Nakia has been on a few times, and he's a musician. He's an artist. He became a very, 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 very activist over the last few years with a lot of the issues that face the Austin music community, housing and whatnot. And since then, he also has gotten back into acting, and he got a part in Demon Doctor. He got a part in this show called Skeleton Crew, which is put together by this gentleman named Joshua Pangborn, a great writer, director, actor, creator. He has a company called Sidekick Productions, where their main goal is size blindness, and they're telling queer stories. So Nakia reached out because they're in the 5th season of Skeleton Crew, and Nakia and Joshua wrote a musical. It's called Dueling Pianos, a Skeleton Crew musical. One of the episodes of the show is a musical with like 15 songs in it. It's like an hour long, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's hilarious. It's sweet. It's dirty, and it's very, very. It normalizes things that haven't been normalized in television and film yet. And I thought that was really great. The way that it's presented is really great. The story is hilarious, and kind of like this weird Fellini kind of vibe going on with all these crazy characters, narrated by an adult baby that to me kind of looks like Dave Attell. Anyway, this guy called Simon in the show. It's fantastic. It's really great. Joshua and Nakia are my guests on the show today. And we're mostly talking about Dueling Pianos, a Skeleton Crew musical, but we're also talking about creativity and finding your lane. They have a Patreon site where you can go there and get involved with them, follow them on there, give some, watch the shows that they make. You can find them at sidekickproductionsny.com. You can also find them at youtube.com/sidekickproductions. The songs are great, by the way. There's a fantastic song called The ABCs of Kink, one of my favorite songs on there. I love this song about poison. So not only did they make Dueling Pianos a Skeleton Crew musical episode, they actually released an album of the 15 songs, available on Spotify, on Apple Music, wherever it is you find music. There's 3 versions of it. There's the actual cast episode with the original cast recording, with everyone singing their own songs. There's an episode with Nakia. A version with Nakia singing all the songs. And then, for those super fans, there is a karaoke version with no singing at all, that you do the singing while listening to the music. Dueling Pianos, a Skeleton Crew musical. Find it wherever it is you stream and download your music. A great conversation with Joshua Pangborn and my dear old friend Nakia, which is like his 6th or 7th or 8th time on the show. So many times on the show, but so great to see him grow and find different avenues of creativity. That's one of the things I'm always proud of my friends. Like, not just music, but like acting, and he's gotten really involved with this. And we have a great conversation about it all. So please, without further ado, enjoy my conversation with the great Nakia and Joshua Pangborn. Let's get down.
Armpits, anal, abduction, seduction, autofellatio. How far can you bend? Age play and adult babies are both kinks I can fully recommend. Then there's bondage and branding and chastity. Oh, what about cock and ball torture? Dominance, dildos, or my favorite, diapers, exhibitionism, easting and edging, feeding, foot play, and pornophilia. Honestly, did you know that people get off by being turned into furniture?
Well, my husband did date an ottoman once.
We all have something deep inside us.
You are, Joshua.
I try.
He is so good.
Yeah. And you guys are hilarious together.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Can I ask you this? I know that this is not going to play well with people that don't know it, but people that do know it, let me just start with something not everyone will relate to. Nakia, your character at the beginning, the guy, the Sebastian Jupiter, is that like almost an extension of Vic Odin? Like what he would have been at home? And explain what Vic Odin is to everyone.
Okay, sure. I have 2 responses. The first one is, are you recording?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so yes, there's this character that I used to do called Vic Odin, who was a part of the Small Stars. That was the brainchild of Miles Zuniga, and really, I think, kind of Paul Miner was, and gosh, Soul Hat, Kevin
McKinney. Yeah.
I think it was really there, and I think Jeff Groves was probably involved early on too. But they came up with the Small Stars after Fastball lost their record deal.
Right.
And Miles was in a very disillusioned and disgruntled state, and he channeled all that emotion into Guy Fantasy, the leader
That
of the
was his
Small
character.
Stars.
Yeah.
That was his character. And then I came along because he and I met at the Apple store, and I helped him not only get his PowerBook fixed, remember PowerBooks, but I basically told the genius that was running the thing, I was like, yo, this guy's in Fastball. Like, just give him a new computer. So they gave him a new PowerBook, even though it was basically his fault. But and then he said, look, we're doing this show every Friday at Egos right now. You should come down and check it out. And I was like, oh, new Small Stars? And I'll never forget. He said, no, man, the Small Stars are done. I mean, the Fastball is done because that's a new. Yeah. And he was like, this is the new shit. This is the Small Stars. I was like, okay. So I go down there, and he essentially, does his whole bit. And at one point brings the microphone up to me. And as he's walking away, I said, yo, why don't you let me up and sing a song? He goes, oh, I get it. Because then he's in full Guy Fantasy. And I was like, so you helped me at the Apple store. Now I have to help you up here. And I got up and they said, well, what song do you want to sing? And I said, how about Wasted Days and Wasted Nights? And they said, what key? And I said, F, which is not really even close to the real original key. But, and they said, whatever. And they played it. And by the time that I got home that night, I had an email from Miles that said, hey, can you come and do that again next week? And do you play keyboard?
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't end up playing keyboard. I did one gig on keyboard for the Small Stars. And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to call Matt Hubbard.
Yeah. Get a guy that knows.
Yeah, exactly. But that character, Vic Odin, he was from Birmingham, England. He was a British manager of that band, but he had a really bad coke problem. Loved to drink a lot. This is before I went to rehab the first time. It was timed very well. I mean, I would leave Egos and get home and wake up the next morning, and I wouldn't remember how I had such a big bar tab, and the band wouldn't remember, why we didn't end up with enough money. Boy, so there were some issues going on. Well, yeah, and so that was Vic Odin. He was a very snarly, abusive, mostly verbally. He was a coward in real life. And I guess in some ways that part of Vic kind of seeps out in those really strong abusive moments with Anthony, played by Joshua.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is even though because you've only seen the musical episode, in real life, yes, or when he's not in the musical in the virtual matrix, Sebastian is an asshole and he is very self-centered, but I don't think that he would actually be that abusive, like physically abusive.
Okay.
And Joshua can probably say a little bit more about that, because my character and that storyline, actually, because of the pandemic, that wasn't originally what the storyline was going to be. And that's one of the reasons that I love this musical so much, not because I stole the storyline from somebody else, but because the pandemic, that's one of the things I got out of the pandemic, was the ability to see a piece of art go from this thing to that thing, because we had to make choices based on coronavirus.
Right. So that was a product of corona. Did you shoot it? When did you shoot it?
Almost entirely during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything with Nakia and me was shot during the pandemic. Anything that takes place in between scenes at the bar and things like that with the other characters, a lot of that was done prior to the pandemic. So that storyline, those storylines didn't change too much. But anything in the musical itself is basically pandemic related shooting. So
Yeah.
Okay.
So the majority of it, by the way. Yeah. And, there's definitely pickups that we did, to fit into it. But Josh basically was able to take that script and churn it. And I think you probably did it. You had maybe two kind of ideas of how you would piece it together. And then you settled on this one.
Yeah. I mean, I come from a school of theater, basically, where they believed in giving us lots of challenges and finding ways to work around those challenges to make the art and everything. So I guess thank you, Manhattanville, for those challenges which taught me how to take things like this where we had storylines that we wanted, that I originally wrote and that were working towards. And the world gave me the challenges this time instead of Manhattanville. And we were able to just find the best way to make it work and make it something that I think is pretty darn awesome.
Yeah. Well, so the regularly Dueling Pianos is the show, and it's in its fifth season, or the fifth season. Skeleton Crew. Sorry.
Skeleton Crew. Right.
Okay.
The name of this episode
is Dueling Piano. Sorry about that.
Right. That's okay.
It's all in my notes, and it's all kind of written. Some of it's written sideways because I was writing the shit while I was watching the show.
The beauty is you get to edit it, so you can start over.
No. I'm human, man. Come on. So Skeleton Crew is normally a show that is not a musical.
Music's always been a part of Skeleton Crew, sort of there in the background, but it's not a musical show, no.
And that's the show that you've been doing the music for, right, Nakia?
Correct. Joshua and I met in 2018. He wrote me a cameo on the show, and I immediately fell so deeply in love with everything that he was doing that I said, "Oh my God, I've never done this before, but can I score some of this?" And he was like, "Sure, I don't have anybody else doing it." So he has essentially allowed me to score and sound design the show. And in the same way that he and the rest of the Sidekick production family kind of taught themselves filmmaking along the way, I've been teaching myself scoring and audio and sound design along the way too. So if you listen to the stuff from season 4, it's very rough, but it's a step up from where they were. But in season 5, man, we've really stepped it up.
I was going to say, because Nakia is selling himself short. I mean, season 4 sounds like a whole different world compared to seasons 1 through 3 that I was doing by myself. So where I'm finding sounds and piecing them together, I didn't know you had to Foley in footsteps. I didn't know any of that stuff. And then here comes Nakia, who's like, we have to up this game a little bit. And he did.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I was watching it, and I know you guys, you have a Patreon, you also have a YouTube page, but the Patreon's an important thing. That's where the show comes out. Like, that's kind of its initial place. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of the Sidekick content goes there first.
Okay. Well, it looks and sounds like a real show, right? I mean, from the show that I saw, Dueling Pianos, the episode I saw.
What you saw, you could have easily seen on any major streaming platform, except for maybe Disney Plus, because it is not family. It's chosen family friendly. That's our slogan, but it's not family friendly.
I was telling my girlfriend that on the phone today. I was saying that like it really, I mean, it's really good. Like it's like a real show. Like it's anything you would see. You know what I mean? And even the way that you approach Josh, whenever Hunter's talking to the doctor, there's like a whole different, like harder kind of like look to that part, which is almost like what's that great Soderbergh movie, Traffic, where like everyone's story has like a different. And I was getting that from this. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I wanted to definitely make sure that there was a distinct look to the different worlds that were going on in the episodes. So.
Yeah, you really struck that. So that's just something you've been learning as you've been going?
Basically, I never edited a speck of footage until season 1 of this show. And then my good friend and one of the co-directors and co-stars of the show, Stuart Keycheck, he taught me the basics of editing. He showed me what to do. And from there, I ran with it and I edited season 1. And I have been learning how to do better than what I did in season 1 ever since. But lots of YouTube tutorials and lots of gratefulness to other people who have shown me the way. Catalan Stellion, who's filmed a couple of music videos on this, he's taught me some tricks and everything. But editing has been something that I discovered that I enjoyed way more than I really thought I would. And it's something that I'm completely self-taught in, which is I'm really kind of proud to say that. So
That's awesome.
I mean, you should be. I mean, Johnny, you know what it reminds me of? And I've never even thought about this before. You and I would put needles on records or rewind cassettes over and over again to learn songs.
Yeah.
And taught ourselves how to do this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's essentially the same thing. I never really thought of that before.
Yeah. So you started out in theater, though?
Yes. So Sidekick Productions originally started as a theater company in 2010. And I love theater. I really, really love theater, and I love musicals. I love everything to do with the theater. I just got very disheartened by independent theater, especially in New York City, where you worked hours and hours and hours, and then you got maybe 3 shows, and maybe 10 people came to the whole run of the show. Just because there's so much theater in New York, and everyone has friends, but everyone's busy. And usually your friends are other actors who are also trying to do shows with only 10 people in them. So
it's just like music here in Austin. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
oh man, why would I go to your show? I played 4 this week.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in 2014, I was just like, I was getting ready to I wanted to do something different. And then I realized I had an idea for a show, a web series. It seems like everyone has a web series now, but in 2014 it was still kind of fresh. Sure. And I got some people together. I said, no idea what we're doing, but let's try it out and make it happen. And then voila, we moved from a theater company to a film company.
Where? Okay, so what did the story come from? Like, where did the story come from to you that made you want to translate this into film?
Sure. So originally I wrote The Skeleton Crew, quote, with the in front of it.
Right.
I dropped the like Facebook did. But I wrote The Skeleton Crew as a play. It was a 2-act play. A lot of the work that I do in theater when I was writing plays is inspired or homages in a lot of ways to classics, classical drama, Shakespeare, Greek drama. I have a doctorate in English literature with a focus on Shakespeare and dramatic literature. So I'm really passionate about bringing a lot of the classics of myth and folklore and everything to a more contemporary audience. So with The Skeleton Crew, I wanted to do my adaptation of Medea, Euripides' Medea. And I also wanted to, with elements of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf thrown in. Right. And when I got to the end of the play, I realized, you know what, this is the first play I've ever written that doesn't feel like it's all buttoned up at the end. Like I could tell more to these people's lives. And that's when I realized, wait a minute, this is what I'm looking for. This is the pilot that I needed to launch into a show. And then I did.
Amazing. I'm glad it wasn't Tyler Perry's Medea.
No, it's a slightly different Medea. We do have a lot of men wearing women's clothing in it, but it's not the same.
So on a technical note, what do you shoot? Like, what do you use to shoot it on? Like,
so season one we shot on Stuart's camera, which I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember what it was, but I know it was an old camera, because it made lots of noises when it was filming. So we had a lot of we could not use the camera audio. But I for Christmas that year after season 1, my mother got me a DSLR Canon EOS 70D. Right. And we've been shooting on a Canon EOS 70D since then. It's I have the same camera since 2015. And we've been using that ever since. There's people like that. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say one of the things. When will this air?
In the next couple weeks, like in 2 weeks.
So, spoiler alert for our Patreon fans and folks that want to get involved. one of the things we're going to be doing for the 100th episode is we're going to be launching some contests and stuff. But we're also going to launch a new goal for ourselves so that we can afford to get a brand new camera and some other things once we reach certain subscriber goals, you know?
Right.
So the other thing that's similar to doing music in Austin, or really any independent, you know, kind of DIY music, is the equipment is really expensive. In fact, I would say some of these cameras, it's like buying a vintage guitar, you know?
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of dollars. But the quality of the equipment now and the technology that's built into all of it is so fucking ridiculous.
Right.
That is, you know, you can't not upgrade.
Right. Have you guys, I mean, people shoot movies on phones. That movie Tangerine, did you guys see that?
Yeah, Tangerine
absolutely.
was great.
Some of this that you saw might have been shot on the phone. We don't know.
Yeah.
I will say that occasionally exterior shots that are not found that are not on B-roll from the internet, stock footage rather. I do shoot on my phone because sometimes I'm out and I'm about and I'm like, you know, that building looks perfect for the exterior of what I'm looking for. I don't have my other camera, so here's my phone. I've got that.
Right.
So I
That's
definitely
so cool,
will
man.
say that we've used that.
It's so
It's great. It's really.
the thing is like, you could get this made into a play that might or might not run 3 times to 10 people and then cost you all that time and sweat equity. But there's no fucking way in the time of gatekeepers that you could have gotten this show made.
No.
Yeah, no.
But now you can make this show and actually learn how to make a show. Because as far as I mean, watching that there's an absurdness to it because obviously this takes place in a different world. So there's like a Fellini trip going on where people are going in and out and there's a dreamlike trip to it. But I loved it. I love that shit. Like,
Thank you.
Did you ever see the movie The Magic Christian? Ringo Starr and Peter Sellers?
I've heard about it. In fact, I think the first time I heard about it was from Miles.
Probably. Yeah. It's that feels like there's like a Fellini feeling to it that is that's fun and adventurous.
I'm so glad
awesome.
you say that.
That's a great comparison. I like that.
So there was a question I was going to ask you before from shooting at the beginning, like starting to shoot it the very first time you shot it. Now, like season 5, do you shoot more or less coverage?
We actually shoot a lot more coverage.
Okay.
We've learned a lot more about coverage.
Okay.
Like season 1, there are moments where it feels like we're shooting a play. And it's
right.
because we're used to that's our world that we came from.
Yeah.
And then but I realized, again, not having gone to film school, but I realized I watch a lot of movies. I watch a lot of television. I know what they do in them. I know that you need to have different angles. You need to have different. You need to have some style to the look and everything. So I've really started to try to get our cinematography to go to another level when we're filming. I've really tried to put a lot more thought into what we're doing with the camera, not just laying it flat, but actually having some camera movement, having some rack focusing. There's been a lot of stuff that we've really brought into filming over the past 4 years, but especially probably in the last year, I would say. Yeah. Probably since Demon Doctor, when we did see Demon Doctor, Nakia. I think I want to. Demon Doctor is a horror series that we do,
right?
And I obviously I wanted to bring a lot of horror filmmaking techniques to that. So I think that made me get more adventurous with Skeleton Crew in season 5. So
I was just thinking to myself, Josh, because day before yesterday, when you and I were working. And when I was done, I went into the other room and Robert paused something on YouTube and he was watching an old episode of Doctor Who with the 5th Doctor, which is his favorite, Peter Davidson, I think. Mm-hmm. And I just stopped. I was transfixed for a second. I was like, wow, this could have been something that we shot. You know, like it's the quality back there was actually really fun and quirky and good.
Yeah.
You know? but it's you can see how inspired. There's a direct line from that, and like Dark Shadows and General Hospital for Skeleton Crew. I mean, it's very much that. I mean, this season of General Hospital, they have a demonic possession.
This season?
Sorry, that's Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives. Sorry. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, it's crazy. So there's a lot of that in what you see in Skeleton Crew, especially the earliest episodes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get to this Dueling Pianos. First of all, the episode, I have to tell you that the name Father Snuggles, that's the best fucking name I've ever heard in my life. And if I by chance have a band in the next few years named Father Snuggles, don't sue me.
I will be flattered, not sued. No suing. Don't worry.
That's amazing.
That's the best name. So
It's a perfect name for that character too. So
yeah, and also Simon, the adult baby, who reminds me of Dave Attell. You know what I'm talking about?
Totally.
He has like a shirtless
He just
Dave
needs a
Attell
voice. He just needs a voice, and he's Dave Attell.
Yeah. It's also great. So you guys wrote all of these songs together.
Yes.
Okay. And
Mostly over the internet. Just
Okay.
It's like yeah.
how did you was it, I'm sure that there's one of those, it's one of those things where there's two people getting to write something that has a sense of humor to it. How did you guys like say stuff to each other until the other person laughed? And then you're like, okay.
Oh. No, listen, Johnny, I'm going to tell you something. This is one of the most surprising aspects of this, but also one of the most rewarding for me is Joshua wrote all of those lyrics. Almost, I'd say at least 80% of them, or maybe 75, wrote all those lyrics. He would send me the song, and I would immediately grab my phone and have a melody idea. And within, I would say 70 to 8, I would say more like 90% of those original demos are exactly what ended up being the record, right? And there, how co-writing in of itself is already, it's an art, but it can also be really, really stressful and weird.
Yeah.
And that there's just none of that. It's just like Josh says, here's the lyrics, boom, here's a song. And what people don't know yet is that we've literally already written probably 2 more musicals worth of songs that we were already writing when this musical part was done, right?
Oh,
like
wow.
we were still like editing stuff for this episode and all that, but we were already on to writing way more songs because he's never done this professionally. Like, this is his first album. All the stuff that he released before, yeah, it might have had music in it, but they didn't even have song titles, like they were just part of the script,
That's so great.
I mean, it is so great, and it's so rare. And so it's just so much of a rewarding experience for me, not only to collaborate with him like that, but then I get to see other people sing our songs.
Yeah.
And hear their version of our songs, which is why we put out basically the karaoke version of the soundtrack, so that fans could, once they hear the songs, they're going to love them. They're going to want to do TikToks to them and stuff. So it's all there. Yeah.
Genius.
Why wait? I mean, it doesn't cost us any more money, but like what, $10 extra to add it to the Spotify and all that stuff, and then whatever the rights management is for that particular platform. In this case, we use DistroKid because they do splits. Normally, I'm a TuneCore baby, kind of guy. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just really, really well. Our relationship as writers is just so perfect, and then I was fortunate enough to, because during the pandemic is when I recorded all of this. I just lived, a hop, skip, and a jump from Ice Cream Factory Studios with Matt Parmenter.
So that's where you did it.
Yeah, who, by the way, is nominated for Producer of the Year for the Austin Music Awards.
Oh, congratulations.
Right?
He's doing great stuff, man.
So good. And then I just took I would say about 60% of this on GarageBand or Logic I had done myself, like demos. And I took those, and then the rest of them, I just had me and a piano. And I took those to Matt, and then we brought in Michael Halftime Peters on drums. He played all the bass and a big chunk of the keys. Because a lot of the keys and stuff were already done, but anything after the fact, he added to it. And then when it really like went to the next level is when we brought in John Sanchez.
Oh, that's who that is.
Yeah,
That's my dude.
He had the material for probably 2 weeks. He showed up. He had notes. He had complete ideas on every song.
Wow.
And he knocked out the entire 15-song soundtrack in 2 days.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome that you guys were able to do this. Like, it's so, it's really inspiring, watching that, listening to it, and just knowing that you can, in this day and age, you can have an idea and put it out, It's still so, surprising to me. Like, a world without gatekeepers is really great, I mean, it can be terrible too, but it's great.
Especially for what Sidekick does. And Josh can talk more about this, but I mean, a huge part of Sidekick's identity as a production company is because we focus so much on it doesn't matter what size you are, what you look like, sound like. We're very fat positive. We're very sex positive. One of the first things when Simon was introduced in season 4, I was like, wow, here's an adult baby character. And it's never like people don't make fun of him. They don't laugh at it, whatever. That's just how he is. And everybody accepts him, this couple is completely, this entire thing is built around their polyamorous relationship. Totally normal.
Right.
And the two leads are both fat guys. Totally normal.
Right. Adult baby. Just that phrase is funny to me.
It always gets me. It always gets me.
And that's what I really did like. Everything is normalized in a way, we all have some uncle that if he saw the Dueling Pianos, a Skeleton Crew musical, would fucking have a shit fit.
I can only hope
at how normalized everything is,
Totally.
Yeah.
Skeleton Crew represents a world that I want us all to live in. So, I mean, it's sort of my idealized world in a lot of ways, where all of this is just perfectly every day. And people just love each other or don't love each other sometimes. But I mean, they have reasons for it other than because of they're just really weird or different or unusual.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like, I feel like there's a normalization of outside white 50s America, culture. There's been I feel like a wider acceptance of it.
I think it depends on where you are. Because if you look at Florida right now, they're trying to pass this "Don't Say Gay" law that where you can't reference or talk about or teach anything to do with gender or sexual identity in schools. And if you do, the school boards will get fined or sued by parents so that's happening right now in Florida. And DeSantis is saying he's going to sign the law when it happens. So, and then you've got Tennessee where they're banning Mouse, which is an amazing comic book about the Holocaust and a true story about the Holocaust. And they're banning it because of quote unquote dirty language and naked mice. So it's
fucking naked mice.
That's
exactly.
How did Mickey Mouse get this far?
He had his fucking pants on.
He had those pants on.
Yeah, he had his pants
on.
So
I really think I think at the same time, I think about how lucky people are growing up now, because all of those queer kids out there, they have TikTok, for example, where they can see people who are just like them and realize, you know what, I'm not alone.
Right.
And I grew up in a very small town where I always felt very different and very weird. And Nakia, I know you grew up in Alabama.
Alabama, yeah.
And so we didn't have. So in some ways, the world has allowed us to change and for the better. But there are those handholds on the 1950s, Leave It to Beaver lifestyle that are ingrained into the U.S. that I think are trying very hard not to let go. And it will take a lot more fighting until that goes away. But I mean, even when you think, like, if you think about on mainstream television, yes, you see a lot more queer characters on television. But
that aren't the
most
butt
famous,
of a joke.
That aren't the butt of the joke.
Right.
But if you look at like Modern Family is a great example, I think. Everyone knows the two gay characters. They're the two of the main characters, but they are completely sexless characters. They you never see them in bed together. You never see them have any sort of non peck on the lips kiss. You never see them do much beyond the idea of squabble like two old biddies. And if they were represented as ace characters, that's perfectly fine, and that's no problem. But these are meant to be two. The stories present them as two very sexually active gay men. You just never see it or hear about it because this is on ABC, and they don't want to have that in Middle America watching these two gay characters do that. There was a really great storyline on Queer as Folk from 2005 US version, where one of the characters, who is a very flamboyant gay man, he got a job on the news in Pennsylvania, and he was there as sort of like the fashion police kind of guy on the news. And another of the other characters, who was this total asshole of the show. He's meant to be the talking head asshole of the show, but he says to him, "You really shouldn't be doing this job because you're the eunuch. You're their trained eunuch. They can have their diversity by saying they have a gay man on the show, but you are sexless and without anything that makes you a gay man." So a lot of that is still happening. But then you at the same time you get really awesome new things that are happening, like trans characters on Star Trek, trans characters in Supergirl.
Right.
But again, I mean, with horror and fantasy and sci-fi and genre television and genre fiction, that's where you're always going to get more progressive stuff than you are in more traditional
Mainstream.
Dramas and comedies and everything. So,
how do you feel?
That was
about
a very long-winded answer in response.
No, that was a good answer. Nakia, what about you? How do you feel it's coming along?
I feel like that it's definitely come along a lot more than it was when I was, being bullied in high school because I said that I like boys, but it's, and I would credit things like, Ryan Murphy's Glee and RuPaul's Drag Race even for helping to bring that along. But even if you watch shows like We're Here from HBO, which is just won tons and tons of awards, and it's about to be third season because they just got renewed. They specifically go to these towns that Josh is talking about, and you see it, and they did one in Texas, and it's just right down the street, and it's like, wow, those people, like those beliefs are so outdated, and it is all based on fear. And I feel like we are definitely moving in the right direction, but as someone who has been the victim of a lot of abuse of my life because of that, the fact that I was queer, I definitely still see the Ron DeSantis's and the Trumps and the whoever else, Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world or whatever, given the opportunity, they will take it all from us, and they will put us in. I mean, like I told Robert when Trump got elected, I said, I'm not scared of Trump. I'm scared of the people that enable Trump and the ignorance that comes along with that. And that's, I've seen that ignorance firsthand. and people are it's easy to manipulate people. I lead rock and roll bands. I know how this works.
Yeah.
I grew up going to Southern Baptist churches. You just have to, have a strong character and a strong message and the ability to carry it and some airwave to put it out.
Yeah.
And that's what's also the double negative kind of like shitty thing about TikTok, right? Or YouTube or anything is that, especially these other platforms like Twitter and some of these talk platforms, that's where they're going to these younger people and these less than educated folks and saying all of these wild ass things that could culminate in seeing more and more of our rights stripped away from us.
Yeah.
That's what they literally want. So
because it feels like, one step forward, two steps back at times, because even with We're Here, which is a really revolutionary series, they had a pastor in one episode who went on a drag, and then the pastor has been fired since then. So
okay,
because
they did drag.
It's definitely made a lot of progress. We've still got a long way to go, and not just for queer people, obviously, but especially as
we haven't even talked about fat positivity. Fat characters and representation.
You're not even going to see hardly any of that on television.
Like, have you heard from people thanking you for showing their lives on television?
Actually, yes. One of the beautiful things about Patreon is that we hear a lot more from in one place, a more centralized location about from fans of the shows who do talk about how our shows have touched them. But over the years, I have had lots of people reach out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email, and just say to me how excited they were to see people like them on screen, to see people telling stories that about their lives, basically, and giving them something to hold on to. I've had one person reach out to me, at least one person. I'm sure that I think there's been more if I really think about it, who told me that I helped them come out of the closet and realize what their identity was because of this show. Others have said they found the courage to love somebody that they were afraid to love because of this show. And it's been really just a really beautiful side effect, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word, but a side aspect of making this show. I mean, when I made this show, I thought I'll be super excited if 100 people watch it, because that's more than anybody who comes to my plays. And then we've got thousands of people from all around the world, and we get people from countries where they can be killed for watching this show. Right. They're gay, and they reach out saying how much this means to them to see this, because they can't be it, they can't see it, they can't do it, but they can at least live vicariously through it, and it's humbling in a lot of ways to hear that.
Does that not in a bad way, but does that then give you a responsibility that informs your writing of the show to sort of like, oh, I should cover this aspect of life?
I think that a little. I guess a little bit. Yes. It's made me think about choices about what I want the show to say.
Right.
What I want to make sure this show doesn't do. And I don't want this show to lean into the lowest common denominator for humor, or pick on anyone. And I really want to make sure that we try to showcase the goals of the characters' lives, which is having as much diversity as we can, having as much as many people identify a different way. I mean, this season, in season 5, we've introduced our first official asexual character. We have an adult baby who's a main character in season 5. We have I really wanted to make sure that we could try to showcase and touch issues that are not necessarily being dealt with, or being dealt with in the way that they should be.
Right.
And I would say it's definitely, the more we've done the show, the more I've felt a little bit more responsibility to make sure that we're saying something beyond just watch our show.
I mean, in season 4, you literally had a character transition from male to female.
Yes. We had Glenn transitioned into Glenda. she officially, Glenn and Glenda has been a character that's been on the show since season 1, but we've followed her journey as she's progressively discovered her identity more and more until in season 4 she officially transitions to be Glenda and is not a drag queen but a woman. So
Is that an Ed Wood tip of the hat?
it wasn't at the time. It was actually I named the character Glenn Reed after Glenn's the first name of Divine, and
nice.
and Reed is the last name of Mary Reed, the famous pirate who I dressed as a man when she was the pirate captain. So
Right. That was one of the things that John Waters brought to the screens, was normalizing what people would consider strange. You know what I mean?
absolutely. And it's funny you say that because I've had this sounds really braggadocio, but I've had people literally say that I am like the John Waters of web series, or I'm the John Waters of theater. And I even won an award at the Baltimore New Web Fest.
You did?
Last year. I won an award for called the John Waters Award because we're so weird and unusual. So where the John Waters One of a Kind Award.
Yeah.
Is what we won. So
You're definitely one of a kind.
The Dueling Pianos episode definitely is like almost like a musical now that I look at it like this, like, and it is just that normalizing of everything, you know.
that's definitely the goal, and that's the world that I want people to all aspire to, basically.
So do you at all go back to theater or anything, or are you like, fuck that?
Funny you should say that.
Well, I mean, everything that we do has a theatrical component to it in general. But we have talked a lot about this with Dueling Pianos and looking at ways to maybe transition that onto the stage in some way. We also have looked at theater as a way to frame one of our next shows that we want to make, which is going to be a more theatrically based series that was inspired by a creation that Nakia had. So
That's right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, something that's been beating around in my head for years. Joshua is finally going to help me to realize on the screen.
You are a musical theater degree holder, right?
I have a bachelor's
Nakia.
degree in theater.
Oh, you do.
Nakia.
I went to school for musical theater, but I have a degree in drugs instead.
Okay.
So yeah,
That's how you end up in rock and roll, dude. That is the left turn you took.
yeah.
I'm sure theater guys do drugs, but
that's one of several left turns.
So what is it? Can you talk a little bit about you guys' next endeavor?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you the broad strokes. Basically, it will be a story centered around a musician who is, kind of, for whatever reason that's not revealed immediately, in a predicament where he cannot sustain his current roles and responsibilities, and so somebody comes in to help him to do that. And he somehow, finagles a way for him to stick around in the process. Basically every week there will be some sort of event that the location that we're at is magically cursed. And there's about 2 to 3 songs that happen every week.
That's cool.
Because anytime you're in this location, you're susceptible to singing.
Okay.
But even if you can't sing, suddenly you burst out into song sometimes,
Right.
based on the location, which is also kind of its own character.
Right.
Yeah.
When I was watching it, first of all, I got to name some songs that I really liked. I liked the Poison
Please,
song.
yes.
Is it called Poison?
A Touch of Poison.
A Touch of Poison. Okay. I love the crazy song that the clown guy sings.
Running around.
Um,
That's Nakia's favorite song, I think.
the Father Snuggles song is good, and he sings really weird. Like his style of singing is so weird. But the Hate Sex song is definitely like I was like fist in the air. And there's the ABCs of Kink. It's so weird. I found this old Gaudi demo that sounds so much like that song with that circus kind of thing and the weird slapback guitar playing weird minor stuff. It's really odd, but the ABCs of Kink is fucking awesome. Like that's a great song.
That was one of the
first
only.
one.
It was the first song that we wrote together.
That could
But
be in
it's
like
also-
fucking Cabaret. You know what
I
I mean?
agree. I agree. What I said when we finished, especially after I heard the final version with Matt, I said, you know what? This is going to be a song that gay men choruses sing all over the world. Like this is like the exact kind of song you can see at a gay men's chorus event. But that was one of the only songs out of the entire soundtrack, Johnny, that I probably had to do any real like big changes lyrically, just because I put more sexual, kinky stuff into it that wasn't there originally. It was kind of there, but not in the same way that it is now.
Right.
Everything else that Josh sent me, maybe I would change a word here, maybe I might move something there or whatever, or add a thing here or there. But ABC's of Kink, I was like, okay, Wikipedia. Like, let's go find out the things. And then I would be like, yeah, I knew that one, did that one. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, love that one. Whatever it is. And then didn't know this one. Oh, wow, that's a thing? Okay, cool. So then I brought that back to Joshua. I was like, what do you think? And he was like, perfect. So it was really one of the most fun and most collaborative songs on the soundtrack.
Yeah. Well, I really loved it. And I did love like the circus feel to it. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's really great.
That really presented itself even more once John Sanchez played.
Yeah.
It was there in the piano demos and stuff,
Yeah.
but and that one for me, if you listen to the Nakia's vocal version, because by the way, there's 3 versions of the soundtrack: the original cast recording,
Right.
the sing-along soundtrack, which is the karaoke album,
Right.
and then there's Nakia's vocal version where I sing everything.
Oh.
So on this one, there's definitely some Vic Oden coming out in that performance.
Yeah.
But for instance, on Me, Myself, and Alone, there's some Vince Neil, Home Sweet Home vibes coming out.
Yeah.
And then on Heathcliff and Hunter, even in the studio, I said to John Sanchez, I said, I need this to be like Bonanza on acid, but like still country and fun.
Yeah.
And I said, in my head, I hear dun, like the Bonanza's like dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
I was like, in my head, I'm hearing, whatever. And he immediately just took it and created it out of the air like that. It was just so great.
That's amazing.
Were you able to come down for any of that, Joshua?
No, I spent a lot of the early pandemic, especially, very afraid. So I did not leave my house.
It kept you from getting sick.
It did, yes. I'm still fortunate that I haven't gotten sick yet. But I spent a lot of time in the early pandemic. I literally didn't leave my apartment.
But to be fair, you wrote and edited and then shot multiple things while everybody else was not going out. He wrote a quarantine episode of Skeleton Crew that we then shot all on our own on iPhones and stuff and sent in, and he edited, and I added the music to that. He wrote, and we then shot a quarantine episode of Demon Doctor. Then he wrote, and we shot a Christmas episode of Demon Doctor, and wrote, and they shot, because I wasn't in either of these, but I did the music and sound design for them, 2 short horror films.
Well, I'm glad that you were stuck in your house.
Yeah, and
I am too. Yeah.
all of this, Johnny, and this is the other thing. Like, if these web fests and stuff, they're like the kind of the mini versions of South by Southwest, but for web series and stuff. Right. They all win awards, like best script, best show, best. I've got a best soundtrack award sitting right up there for Demon Doctor. That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, it's just so cool to me that people get it in that way.
Yeah.
What we really need, and I know you have a large listenership, is someone with connections to a streaming company that can get us a 15-minute pitch. That's what we need.
Or, in all honesty, can you sustain this on your own and grow it on? Because that's the thing that fascinates me about it, is that you've been able to do 5 seasons. I mean, trust me, I know what you mean. It would be awesome if Netflix came in and just like whatever the fuck you guys want to do.
You're right.
Here's $1 bazillion. But how neato is it to be able to build this shit? And if you're able at this point, it seems like the idea of narrowcasting and this thing that I've heard Kevin Smith, the filmmaker, talk about, where if you can find 10,000 people that are willing to buy your shit when you put it out, you can live.
Yeah.
Listen, I know we want more than that, but to me,
sure.
And just like literally the specificity of characters and the fact that you don't ever see a show. You never see a show, even though I only saw this one episode, where it's all gay people, totally different body sizes. You never see that. You know what I mean?
It's niche, right? It is, and Joshua and I were just having this conversation because we're getting ready to relaunch the Patreon. We have a weekly live stream called Sidekick Power Hour for the 100th episode. To celebrate that, we're going to relaunch everything with a whole new kind of vibe and look and website and all of that stuff. And one of the things that I told Josh, I said, we just have to understand that we may never get Netflix or Hulu or whatever, and that's okay, because we have all of these people that already love it. Right. We just have to lean into that niche and really own that lane and drive in it.
There's a lot of people that want to see that.
They sure as fuck do. They sure as fuck do. And that's what we have discovered, even with this musical, Johnny. Like, we already had fans that loved the show, but suddenly people who love musicals are like, oh, what's this? And okay, I'll check this out. No ma'am. Sorry, the Amazon guys here. So it's been what it's like.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting to see friends of mine who aren't, gay bears like yourself, who are like, man, this is really cool. John Sanchez came to the virtual red carpet premiere that we hosted a couple weeks ago for our Patreon members, and he had never seen it yet. And he was almost in tears at one point, talking about how moved he was that he was able to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Because he was just like, guys, it's so good.
Yeah.
He's like, I had no idea it was going to be this good.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm drawing a blank on the show. There's a Hulu show, and it's about these Native American kids.
Taika Waititi did it.
Yes, exactly.
Reservation Dogs.
That's right. Reservation Dogs. It's fucking fantastic. And I got that, where like, oh, this is a world I'm not in. Yeah. And it's fun. Everyone's cool. You know what I mean? You guys have great jams. But I mean, I think this is something that will translate to other people with open hearts and minds. But you guys, I don't know, it's really great, and it has a lot of heart and a lot of soul, and it's funny and it feels good. And Nakia, I'm glad you grew the beard, because I think of you as mean without your beard. Yeah.
Thank you for that feedback, because we're getting ready to shoot a new promo video, and I was asking Josh, should I shave it? Now I know for sure that I'm going to leave it. So,
well, if you have to be mean, shave it. But Josh, you're a great actor, and
thank you.
Yeah, whoever the guy was that played Hunter too, he was great. What was that? What was the doctor? He kept on saying his name.
Heathcliff. Nico Kiefer played Heathcliff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nico Kiefer, which sounds like it sounds like somebody that you would have heard from like a hair band in the 90s. I love his name.
Yeah.
Nico Kiefer on drums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was great too.
He's so
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah. It was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. And the guy that plays Simon, he's fucking great.
Mark Eugene Garcia
Yeah.
is he's just so incredible. I love working with him, and he brings everything to life. Well, I knew when I was writing this that I could trust him to do everything that we were asking him to do.
You need a narrator you can trust, right? Like
Right.
that's him.
In the Dueling Pianos episode, to me, there's like I wrote this down. There's a theme of the damage and emptiness that comes from trying to be famous. There's a lot of talk of my dreams. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And even the Sebastian Jupiter, he's been knocked down for, he's been canceled or whatever, and he's going to come back,
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. That's we see that more and more in society. All of these people who do these outrageous things to try to, that's the only way you can get any kind of fame now, is that you have to be super outrageous. And then your 15 minutes is really more like 5 now.
Yeah.
Then you've got to do something else. And that's why I think that's one of the reasons that we keep seeing dipshits like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Joe Rogan get so much attention, is because they do outrageous things and they can afford to make these mistakes, and then they just keep doing it because people give them attention.
Yeah.
But it is nice to see people giving the work that we do attention because it's good.
Yeah.
Because the merit of the quality of the art. That's the other thing. Yes, I post about this stuff and I promote it or whatever, but it's not like trying to get people to come to a show, Johnny. Like, it's just not. It's not even like trying to get people to listen to your new record or watch your new video. There's a real different vibe to that portion of it. It's the same thing. Don't get me wrong. Marketing basically is the same, and this, that way or the other, but it just feels different, and it doesn't feel like something that I constantly have to bang on people's doors to try to get them to hear it or see it or whatever. And I think a big part of that is because I'm so satisfied with it. I'm so happy with it that that's enough. Like, I've made it, and if it hits, it hits. And I'll put the love in doing real marketing for it and stuff, but it's not the same as doing a record for some reason. I don't know why that is,
Even
But
making
it
this
just-
record wasn't like making a regular record, like normal. Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No. And everybody in Austin knows I've made most all of my records with Mac McNabb. This is the first one I really didn't make with Mac, aside from Drowning the Crimson Tide, which I made with 6 producers,
Maybe it's because you're writing for these characters and for a certain thing that it sort of takes the pressure off of having to be so Nakia all the time. That's my least favorite part of the whole thing. It's like every once in a while you're like, I don't want to be me anymore.
No, it's totally. You hit the nail on the head. That is a big part of even. Look at how much I was involved in all of the advocacy stuff right at the beginning of the pandemic, and even before that. So much of that moment, people were like calling me all the time, asking me these crazy questions and seeing if I could help with this. I mean, fucking Mayor Adler would like call me about shit, and it would be like that Nakia they wanted, and I didn't want to be that Nakia. At the beginning of 2020, I was already actively trying to start focusing more on acting after I met Josh, because I was so just like immediately bit with the acting bug again. I was taking classes with Betty Buckley, I was.
Oh yeah, Betty Buckley from 8 is Enough.
Yeah, and she originated the most famous role in Cats. She is a legend, and most people don't know this. Her best friend was Stephen Bruton. They went to high school together.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts?
Small world.
And she still lives in Fort Worth.
Wow.
But I was telling Josh at the beginning of 2020, I'm going to probably spend 6 months in New York City next year. I'm going to really try to start auditioning again and stuff. And I was telling Pat from Austin, Texas Musicians and stuff, I'm getting ready to take a real big back seat here.
Right. Yeah.
Burn out. I gotta take a break. You know, this was a thing I did out of passion and love for our community, and it suddenly turned into. I had people saying that I wasn't a person of color because I looked white. I mean, stupid shit like that.
That's always the worst part about doing something good is the backlash where people are like, "No, you're not doing something good."
Well, or you're not doing it the way I would do it.
Right.
There was a lot of armchair activists.
Yeah.
There was a lot of armchair activists because, frankly, nobody had anything else to do with our time.
Yeah.
You know? But fuck, all of that was great. But this really is, you see that in the show, in this episode, that there are consequences for having that kind of too big of a drive that you start to hurt other people.
Yeah.
And you hurt yourself, and there should be consequences for that. And Joshua does such a great job of translating that into the script, and then obviously the actors do such great jobs in here as well.
And I think more specifically, it's that it's doing it alone. It's not having trying to have all of those dreams and fame without having the people along with you. Is
Sure.
a big part of it.
Yeah.
Because Sebastian Jupiter is all about it for himself. Anthony, as we see through most of the season, he's got this drive, but he doesn't want to ask for help from anybody. It's all on he's doing it all on himself. So it's a lot of just, we're not saying don't dream. We're saying think about, bring people along with you. And that's sort of important, I think.
Yeah. The Casey Kasem send off. The keep your feet on the ground, but keep reaching for the stars. Like don't go nuts over there. It. Yeah. What about musicals now? Like what about these movie musicals? I just saw that the I didn't see the Steven Spielberg West Side Story. Did you guys see it?
I have avoided a lot of cinemas except for during the pandemic, so I'm very excited for March 2nd when it comes on HBO Max.
Okay.
So, but I've heard nothing but amazing things. I did not see Cats. I couldn't bring myself to see Cats. Cats is not a musical I enjoy to be. I love musicals. Like I love all sorts of musicals. Cats is one of those shows that I just never enjoyed. And so I wasn't sure I was going to want to put myself through the movie as well. But if you want to talk about a movie musical that everybody should see, Tick, Tick, Boom is amazing.
Tick, Tick, Boom?
Is. Yes, it came out on Netflix last fall. Andrew Garfield's nominated for Best Actor for it, for an Oscar, and Lin-Manuel Miranda directed it.
Oh,
it's written by Jonathan Larson, who wrote Rent.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And
it's autobiographical about Jonathan Larson. Yeah, it's such a brilliant show. It's such a brilliant film adaptation of the show, and for anybody who's an artist, it is just something that I think you'll connect with on a whole different level because, what he gives up or what he tries to go for a lot of his dreams, he just forgets. He does it on his own sometimes, and that's the problem. That's his conflicts that he runs into. But it's just a wonderful show, and I'm really, really excited to see it again because I mean it's on Netflix, so I can watch it anytime I want. So I'm very lucky about that.
Yeah.
And I would say, I mean, there's actually there's a growing world of musical television too. But if you want to watch the best musical television series you could possibly ever want to watch, it's Crazy Ex-Girlfriend because that show that's
musical.
It's a musical series. Yes,
I didn't know either. And Adam Schlesinger wrote a huge, basically all the songs.
Awesome.
With Rachel.
It is. It's a show where there's 2 to 5 songs every week in every episode.
Jesus.
It's
4 seasons long.
Wow.
Yep. And it's such a beautiful series that does such an incredible job of showing flawed characters, but still making you love them and showing flawed characters. And it deals so much with mental health, with love, with everything that speaks, I think, to the millennial generation in a lot of ways. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll check that out. I did the Hamilton thing that they put on Disney. That was the first time I saw that. It's great.
Hamilton's a brilliant show. It is.
It's great. It's hard to watch as a person that's a creative and in show business because there's nonstop blocking and there's spinning things and people are changing the sets, like the actors are changing this, like that part of it. Like I had to keep on rewinding shit because I would just be like, well, that guy's carrying out a chair. Oh, I guess they're changing scenes. God, how are they doing this? How are they not just running into each other? Like that was insane to watch.
I think it's a really big thing in a lot of shows to have the cast also do a lot of other roles. You'll see this a lot.
Hadestown did that.
Yeah, Hadestown did that. You'll see this a lot. I've seen this several times on Broadway and off Broadway recently, where the cast is also the orchestra. Okay. And so the orchestra, obviously the music is pared down in terms of instruments and everything. But I saw a Sweeney Todd production where Patti LuPone was the tuba player as well as playing the lead female role, Mrs. Lovett. So
Wow.
it's a very big thing, I think, to see. It's a growing thing, I think, in theater to see the actors doing more things. Possibly also a cost-saving feature, but I'm not sure if I want to.
Well, it definitely is. It's funny you said that about the size of the orchestra, though, because that was one of the things I told Matt Parmenter when we started the soundtrack recording. Was I said I want this to sound like an off-Broadway version of Rocky Horror or something, with just a guitar, bass, drums, and keys. And maybe every now and then one of them splits off and plays a horn or a ukulele or whatever it is.
Right.
But it needs to have that vibe. And I think that we really achieved that.
Yeah. Is that part of an inspiration for it? Because it does have, it's not like Rocky Horror, but it has that kind of soul to it.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
I think Rocky Horror was certainly an inspiration for it. I'm a huge fan of Rocky Horror. That was something I grew up watching every Halloween, so it was a very important part of my childhood. I think musicals like Rocky Horror, the Buffy episode, the Buffy musical episode from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Probably Rent is in there a little bit too. Sondheim Sondheim for me is a huge influence though as well in terms of lyrics and everything. So Assassins and Into the Woods and Sweeney Todd are all things that sort of all came to me for inspiration.
Johnny, you're probably not a theater nerd, but if you were, you would have probably noticed that a huge chunk of any of the dialogue that's taking place inside the thing, like there are things that slip in. And one of the things we did with our Patreon fans who watched it with us is tell us when you hear a musical reference, because Josh inserted so many great little musical references into the script. So, the line about like, I'm just going to go over there and check out that little corner of the sky, that's Into the Woods.
Corner of the Sky's Pippin.
Pippin.
That line where Nakia says to me, as he's grabbing my mouth and everything in the bathroom, and there's a hole in the world with like a big black pit, and it's filled with people who are filled with shit. That's straight out of Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
Because Simon's character obviously is a theater nerd,
right?
Loves musical theater, and he is too. But that's why it keeps popping up in the virtual simulation.
Oh, it's kind of a theater guy. I guess I'm not.
Yeah, man. I went to school on a musical theater scholarship. I really was at that time starting to really dig into it. But once I took that path toward rock and roll and soul and blues and stuff, I really just dug in there. And Josh has been literally teaching me things about shows and characters and that I didn't know.
But you played is it Eddie, the Meatloaf character?
I did. Yeah. I played Eddie in the Zach Scott production.
Right.
Yeah. So
the thing that I feel about musical theater now and theater in general is it's just movies. being made into fucking, or rock bands' careers being
Jukebox musicals.
jukebox
yeah.
musicals.
That's a huge complaint in New York. I have a lot of people in the theater scene in New York, so I hear this a lot. That's a huge complaint. Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the Tonys, half the shows that are there are shows that are based off of
It's like Legally
movies.
Blonde and shit. Like,
I mean,
what world do
Beetlejuice
I-
is coming back to Broadway.
Yeah.
I like Beetlejuice, but I mean, the same.
I love
it's just-
Beetlejuice.
I'd like to
I
see
love it.
original stuff again. Like whatever they showed West Side Story or,
Hadestown is a great example.
yeah.
Hadestown
Hadestown,
is so
yeah.
good. If you ever get a chance to see that, and that came from a musician, from a songwriter. God, I was in the songwriting game with Bob. She was one of the people in the game.
think her name-
Anya Maria.
Oh,
Anya
really?
Maria.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that's why. I mean, that's what. Like all these, like even our friend in the Go-Go's had one. Our friend Darren was in one that John Lennon did. Our friend
Yeah.
Spencer's family is the Bee Gees, and so they had a. I mean, just
Sure.
even like just three people we know. There's three different fucking musicals about like a
I
band's
saw Head
career.
Over Heels.
You did.
I saw Head Over Heels. Yeah. And Kathy was sweet enough to text the cast and tell them to come meet me after. It was so sweet. But it was really, really good, man.
Yeah.
If you get to see it on tour, see it. They took an ancient Greek play and turned it into a musical with their music, which is, I think, pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
Considering they did. And one of the coolest things about that is the orchestra is just a band.
Yeah.
It's
Just a regular
really
band,
rock.
yeah.
It's a rock show.
So
Yeah.
you think that Dueling Pianos, you'll be able to put it on the stage?
Oh yeah. Josh, how soon into this process, when we were done with the songs and the main script, did I begin floating the idea of switching to or doing a stage version?
Before we started, actually. So. No, but pretty much right away, you're like, I really can't wait for us to do a stage version of this. And I'm like, let's film it first.
I mean, look, Small Stars, we did a stage version
Yeah.
multiple times. We did Small Stars at Zach Scott. That's how I got the job doing Marcellus in The Music Man at the Paramount. And that's how I got the job doing Eddie, because Dave Stakely saw me as Vic Odin and cast me as Eddie for Rocky Horror. I think stage is so awesome, but I don't think of us so much as doing it. I just think it would make such a great musical that other people could do it. And I'm super turned on by that idea of like
Yeah.
other people finding this play and this music and being like, oh, let's do this. This will be fun.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want to see.
Yeah. So people can find your Patreon. It's patreon.com/Sidekick Productions. The YouTube is youtube.com/Sidekick Productions. Is there a website, Sidekick Productions?
There is
.com?
sidekickproductionsny.com.
NY. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just
Yeah.
want to make sure that
But Patreon, we're really focusing all of our energy mostly on Patreon and YouTube anyway. So the 100th episode, we'll be relaunching the website and everything.
sidekickproductionsny.com.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The Patreon, I think that's kind of the future of people that are making stuff on their own. And I don't by any means not hope that you get picked up by a streaming service. I just love the fact that you can actually like Annie DeFranco this,
Totally. I mean,
like
look,
anything it would be cool if someone offered you something and you're like, dude, I make like twice that without you. Like, what do I need you
Absolutely.
for? Yeah. That's a good
I
feeling.
think it's very, very possible, Johnny.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do. Since we've started posting the behind the scenes stuff and the extra scenes and the extended scenes, every week we just go up just a few more. And that's all it takes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Joshua already has 80 hours of television in the can. So
God, congratulations.
and none of it's been marketed really at all. So, and not presented in this format and the way to Patreon in a vault-like setting. So we got plenty of time to put that stuff out while we're working on the new stuff.
Yeah. And the reason why it's growing consistently and maybe smaller is because you're getting real fans, like somebody's friend that they trust and oh God, you got to see this. You're gonna love it. And they're like, shit, I saw it. I love it. And then that's
it.
I do have this thing, and I have nothing against publicists, but I feel like people connect with things either if someone they trust really tells them. I don't know of somebody who's like, dude, I found my favorite band in an article. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, I'm sure that happens, but the real connection is amazing.
And you're right. I don't have anything against publicists either, but I do absolutely agree with you. It's never more cool, than when you get it from someone you know.
Yeah. I could talk to you guys all day. I love this episode, and I'll go back and watch the rest of the show. Joshua, how do you say your last name? Pangborn?
Pangborn, yep.
Where's that from?
It's unfortunately my father's side doesn't really know anything about their history.
Oh, wow.
But there is a town in the UK called Pangborn.
Okay.
So it's probably it's British, certainly. I'm a northern Western European mutt of backgrounds. So
Such a cute mutt, though.
Yeah. You guys did have your shirts on during this interview. I saw
Yes.
you naked most of the morning. I'm really inspired by what you guys have done, both artistically and just having the guts and confidence to go out and make something and put it out there like this. And it's really good. I really applaud you guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. And Nakia is someone that I've known for so long, doing different stuff all the time. And just, the fact that you're always challenging yourself, to me, it's also really inspirational.
Thank you. I have to ask you,
oh God,
after reading what Kevin Curtin said about seeing me in that role being kind of hard to see, hard to watch because he has a completely different idea of me. Did you find yourself also being like, whoa, Nakia, like what?
I'm like, stop being mean to fucking Anthony. So you're such a nice guy. It's just weird to see you be mean.
I love that.
But I did love it. You're a good actor. You guys are both really good actors. I enjoyed your chemistry, and I enjoyed, who was the lady? One more song. What's the song that the lady's wearing the mask at the bar?
Oh, Barbara Thomas.
Yeah.
That's Me, Myself, and Alone. Barbara Thomas.
Yeah, Me, Myself, and Alone.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
I mean, who knew that on one album I would have a song about an adult baby, a song that's sang by a ghost, multiple songs that take place in virtual reality, and a song that name checks water sports. Like.
Yeah, her song and her character kind of gave me that Sunset Boulevard vibe.
Yes.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah,
that's what
exactly
that's
it.
basically what she is. She's my Norma Desmond. Just in the rest of the show, you'll see she's a ghost that haunts Anthony.
Yeah.
But so for sure, absolutely.
I saw that movie for the first time like 6 months ago, and I wrote this mutual friend of Nakia's and mine, Gabe Rhodes, and I was like, hey, let's write a song that just uses the dialogue from that movie. Let's just watch it again and write shit down.
Oh my God.
Because
that's
everything
amazing.
said in that movie is like the saddest poetry I've ever heard.
Oh, I
love
love Sunset Boulevard so much. And that's another musical. That movie that became a musical.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that Betty Buckley starred in the whatever.
Well, Glenn Close originated the role, but
awesome.
No, I mean on stage. Sorry.
Yeah.
She did the revamp, whatever they call it.
Revival.
The revival.
Yeah.
The revamp.
Go back and watch that scene where between the two of Anthony and Carla, right before she sings. I've told Josh and anybody that'll listen, I think that moment is the kind of moment that we're going to see drag queens lip syncing to. When I first found you, the way she delivers those lines, it's so iconic and so perfect. And the cadence is perfect for a drag queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
if you're a drag queen listening to this and you do that, please tag us.
Yeah, please. And thank
I
you
also
for
just have to say my favorite song on the show, is because we didn't talk about it,
What
is
is it?
the one that Nakia sings with Ashley Monique Menard. What a Waste! I think is for me my favorite song that I wrote on the show, and the two of them are just incredible on it. So,
Well, here's to more musicals from you guys. Oh, I guess the show that you're working on. So
Yes.
Multiple shows, plural.
SidekickProductionsNY.com is the center for all of this stuff, but there are Sidekick Productions on Patreon, Sidekick Productions on YouTube,
Yeah.
and all the places. Guys, thanks for doing the show, and thanks for making a Skeleton Crew. A Skeleton Crew, there's the show, and then there's also Dueling Pianos, a Skeleton Crew musical, and that's also available on all the streaming services. And you can get version. Is the karaoke version available on streaming? Is everything?
Yep,
Oh, man.
everything but Apple Music. Apple
Okay.
Music doesn't allow karaoke versions.
Well, there's only like 8,000 other streaming places.
You can get it everywhere you stream music.
Yeah.
Guys.
Well, thank you guys so much for doing the show, and thank you for making it. And I look forward. Let's do this again.
Thank
absolutely,
you.
thank
All
you
right.
so much for having us.
Yeah, good to see you, Nakia. I love you, man.
You too. Love you too.
All right, bye, guys.
Age play and adult babies are both kinks I can fully recommend. Then there's bondage and branding and chastity.
All right, that's Nakia and Joshua Pangborn. Dueling Pianos, a Skeleton Crew musical. Not only is it a show that you can watch, but it's also an album you can find wherever it is you stream and download your music. Get out there and check it out. Go to sidekickproductionsny.com for all of your Sidekick Productions needs. I want to thank Joshua and Nakia for doing the show. That was a great conversation. I feel like we went into some deep places, and they're fucking great guys. They're hilarious. All right, don't forget when you're out there checking out sidekickproductionsny.com to subscribe to this podcast wherever it is that you find podcasts. Share it with your friends. Let them know what's going on. You can follow me on Instagram at Johnny Gowdy, on Twitter at Johnny Gowdy, and like our Facebook page if you do Facebook. All right? Let's enjoy the rest of this music. This song, The ABCs of Kink, from Dueling Pianos, a Skeleton Crew musical. Have a great weekend, whatever it is you're doing. Let's get down.
Don't forget about frottage or furries.
Or gagging.
Aha! Now that's a great word for the letter G. So let's skip right to humiliation. That's what excites our dearest Anthony. He gets off on verbal mocking and sissification.
Yeah, you like being a little sissy bitch, don't you?
Yes, Daddy. You can call yourself a chubby chaser, even if you're not a twink. These are the ABCs of kink. Paddles and canes are for impact play. For the artiste, try Japanese bondage. If you love a good enema, Clismophilia's your bag, baby. Limits are what you won't do and should be respected by all parties.
Yeah, submissive doesn't always mean slave. I mean, it can, but only with consent.
Masters mummified and masochists like needles. Brats scream over the knee. Orgasm control, orgies and puck play. Some folks love wearing PVC. How about rough sex with scratching and biting? Next is roleplay, sounding and scat. Does Carla turn you on? Are you into spectrophilia? Maybe tentacle porn and trampling's where it's at. This list is merely a guideline. There's so much more than you think. These are the ABCs of kink. Uniforms are hot, be it cop or a priest. Feel your fantasy how you choose. So you like to watch, that makes you a voyeur. Water sports fans flag yellow when they cruise. Wax play and wrestling, yipping and yowie. Let your freak flag fly for all to see. There's a fetish for everything. So you like wearing lycra and getting fucked in a sling.
Ooh, I know that one. Sentai?
Yes. Some people may never understand it. Others give you a nod in a wink. If you've grown tired of the taste of vanilla, you're craving something adventurous to drink, remember these words that I say to you, because these are the ABCs of